Good morning, Olgada. Welcome to the Communication Permanent Parliamentary Communication Committee on Communication. Our terms are reference are on role and impact of media in Papua New Guinea. In the last session of Parliament, we passed a legislation that made PNG a Christian country. So we will start we'll show that we are Christians in this country, and we will start this day with a word of prayer. I invite Member for Central Bougainville, Honorable Simon Dumarino, to say a word of prayer.
Let's pray before we begin our session today. We commit ourselves to the powerful God, our loving Father. Continue to care for us, guide us, and help us, particularly to continue to follow His command, to provide service to God's people, and also to Him alone in our work and field, particularly in the area of communication. God is a God of a communicator. He communicates with us every day in our lifetime, in our continue doing things when we are on the field, when we are interacting with each other. Continue to help us in this. Let us pray. We pray, God our Father, we thank you for bringing us again today, the second day of our session in media communication, especially area of communication. We want to work on it in order to improve, especially in Papua New Guinea, how we can communicate with each other in this area of disseminating information to one another, for us, to the leaders, and leaders to the people, and also communicate with each other in the organizations and what area we belong to, in organization, church, or business organization, government. And we also have that responsibility to continue to communicate with the internationally in our lives. So we ask your blessing today, your protection, your guidance in this, because you are the Lord of communication, especially in Scripture, in the Genesis, the book of Genesis. You communicate and you speak, and the things come into being, come into existence, and you are powerful through that voice of being communicating with us, especially with others, are important tool to deliver message across to each other in a field of communication with each other, in the field, in the work of disseminating information to one another. We ask your guidance today, this morning, and today, and pray for the committee members, pray for the media community groupings, individuals here we are today, so that we, together with our Parliament, Papua New Guinea, and with the people, we guide ourselves to guide so that the peace and harmony continue to prevail among us in the society, especially in the nation of Papua New Guinea. We pray that this work may continue to be fruitful in order to set the way forward for better communication in Papua New Guinea. We make this prayer through Christ our Lord. Everybody, amen. Amen.
Thank you, Member for Central Bougainville and committee member. Our lineup for today is we have someone, NICTA and Office of the Prime Minister to be present. I want to confirm if they're in attendance now. They're in attendance. Okay, we will take the first, as per our schedule. They have not attended yesterday. They will attend today. They will go first today. So Office of the Prime Minister will be the first person for the first office for the inquiry. Then NICTA, and then we follow the schedule, as per the schedule. Thank you. We invite the Office of the Prime Minister. Chief Secretary is here. Thank you, Chief Secretary. Please take your seat. Good morning, Chief Secretary.
Thank you, Chairman. I do want to apologize to you and your committee that I missed my appointment yesterday. So I'm sorry, Mino Kamaste. Only someone just needed to remind me and they obviously forgot, but sorry about that.
Thank you. Your apology is accepted. We understand that you work in the most important office in this land. So you have a very busy schedule, and we also want to thank you that you took our letter of summon and you come before us. I also ask if you are ready to do a statement based on our terms of inquiry.
Thank you, Chairman. Because of my lack of understanding on what I should address, I wanted to come here and hear from you first what areas of issues that you'd like for my office to address, and if I could solicit your agreement for me to file a submission, and then I can obviously come back to the inquiry at any time you require after I've filed a written submission on areas that you'd like my office to address.
Thank you. Special inquiry to you in the last day of like in July something. So give me time to. Chief Secretary, we come to a consensus that we would like to give you, because you represent a very important office of the Prime Minister of the executive government. So we would like a good written statement on the terms of reference. So we understand that you are a very busy, the office is very busy with all of this, so we would like to give you at least 2 months. So you'll be reading from the newspapers and watching from the news what we are doing about our conduct of our inquiry, and our last inquiry will be in July. So we expect that you'll be the first person to attend that inquiry, and then from that we'll be able to make the submissions, and we can provide you the some questions we have. So now the Secretariat will give you the commission of inquiry. The terms of reference. So I expect you to go and we expect you to go and go through the terms of reference and provide a formal submission to this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I do appreciate your generosity. I was expecting a couple of days, but you've given me 2 months. We'll make sure that we turn in a submission well before the 2 months.
That's good, because part of questions in July will be regarding the budgeting of committee. So we would expect parliamentary committees. So we would expect when you come on July, you also come prepared to answer with regards to budget for parliamentary committees.
Sure.
Secretary, please provide him a copy of the terms of reference. Thank you. You can be excused now. Okay, Nikta is up next. Nikta, you can take your seat if you have your colleagues with you. They also can take their seat. We are inquiring into the Nikta as a whole, not the CEO. Yeah. I'll give the opportunity for you to speak first and make the recommendations. Sorry, introductions. Pressing button, you know.
Thank you, and a very good morning, Chairman of the Parliamentary Committee on Communications, Honorable Mas Narawek, and your two esteemed committee members, Honorable Ricky Morris and Honorable Simon Dumari. And of course, let me first of all extend my sincere apologies for not being able to make the hearing yesterday. I must unreservedly apologize to you, Chairman, and the committee and all stakeholders. I must clarify that unfortunately we were not notified of the need of our attendance. Our notification only came after the fact. This means that we were only notified yesterday after the schedule. So I unreservedly apologize to your good committee, but at the same time clarify and put on record that we were not informed. Your letter that was communicated to us actually in the afternoon yesterday. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for apology accepted. I think there's a miscommunication between our secretariat and your department or agency. We also apologize for that. So that means that you don't have time to go through our terms of reference that we sent.
Absolutely not. So I will ask in the same manner as the previous period, the Chief Secretary, to give us time to make a formal submission.
Thank you. I think the precedence has already been set, so we will expect you to do a formal submission together with the Office of the Prime Minister the next time we call for the inquiry. So you already have the terms of reference, and we will basically look into your roles and responsibilities with regard to the terms of reference. So at least some idea on how you can prepare your submissions with regard to that.
Thank you. Having said that, let me first of all state that we welcome this initiative. As the regulator of the ICT sector in Papua New Guinea, I think it is timely. Media has become diverse and far more complex than in recent years. It is therefore timely for the government to consider an approach to policy and to industry development that encompasses the full range from traditional print media to electronic media, including radio, television, and internet. So with those few remarks, we just wanted to assure you of our full commitment to the process, and as well as to applaud you for the initiative. We think this is timely. Of course, our policies and laws and the framework that generally governs media needs a overhaul. Thank you. So we look forward to ongoing participation, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to come back to the committee with a formal submission. Thank you indeed.
Thank you. the media, the committee is looking, Parliamentary Committee on Communication is looking into the media industry this year. Just to advise you in advance that in next year we will be looking into the technology aspect of the communication, which means digital infrastructure, services, and all this.
Okay.
So that will be an area that you will be interested to also. So not only NICTA, but all the government services, including all the government systems, infrastructure, basically digital services. So just information for next year inquiries. Thank you. You may be excused.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, now we are ready for this one. Secretariat, please. Where's my copy of the document?
Michael?
No, it's here. It's here. Thank you. On paper I build up now.
Anderson. The question about yesterday. The part yesterday. The question here. I lost it somewhere. Yeah, the part we used the first part yesterday.
Okay, do we have media, Papua New Guinea Media Council? Please take the, please take, you come with your council or you're the only one? Okay, good. Please take a seat. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman.
All right. Thank you for your coming. You are a very important organization, a stakeholder in this inquiry. So we could take some time and you also can take time to also talk about the industry too. As that's what you do. What you will do is you will provide information to this inquiry. So you have had from the government side stakeholders yesterday, I believe you said, with regards to media freedom. But because with regards to media freedom and they all agree that media is self-regulating. So we would really want to know from the media perspective, the industry perspective, on whether it is true, whether media is self-regulating, whether there is media freedom, not by law, but by behavior, by attitude, by conduct, by influence, whether it's free or not. That's the main outcome we want to get from the industry. And there are also other areas as terms of reference. But we welcome you to give your. I think we receive a response, your statement letter. We haven't gone through, but just on record for the media industry, we understand that there is a policy being developed called Media Development Policy. But the role of the Parliamentary Committee is not to inquire on preempt government policies. That's the role of the executive government to do the draft the policy, do the consultation of the policy, and get it to the stage where it is gazetted or formalized, recognized by the Parliament. Once that is done, then we'll be able to inquire into those policy, and not quickly, but when after the policy is being in use, And then we'll be inquired to find the effect of policy, the impact of the policy, the outcome of the policies. That's our role to find out whether they draft the policy, I mean, whether the policy has any impact or, any consequences or those things. So we will not inquire into, well, they're still being drafting. It's not been finalized yet. It's not been recognized yet by the parliament. Once everything has been recognized and accepted by the parliament, then we'll be able to inquire into those policies, legislations, and all these things. So just to clarify the role of the executive government and the role of the legislative government. So it's like we don't want to know the plans you have for the industry, what plans you have for the media. That's not our objective. We want to know what you are currently doing, what your current impact of the media industry. That's the current situation we want to know, not the plan or what we intend to do. Just some guidelines on how we want to hear the response from you guys. Thank you. If you have other verbal response or statement you want to present, you can do that.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you. I think that your explanation of the guidelines of what you're inquiring about is pretty clear. Yes, we did submit a written submission with regards to the terms of reference, but I would beg the committee's indulgence just to say a few words based on what was discussed yesterday, and probably to give more context around our discussions moving forward. You'll be hearing from individual media houses who have been invited, so then you can ask them questions, but I'll probably give an overview of the council and where the sector is right now and the current challenges that need to be considered.
Yes.
Okay, again, thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the Media Council of Papua New Guinea. It is the first time for us to be invited to an inquiry as such, and we support fully the reactivation of the committee system in Parliament. I think that's a positive thing moving forward. We have as our members the mainstream media news organizations in the country. We also have as our members civil society organizations who do work with the media, both corporate and government media units. Some of them are our members, and small media organizations or publishing houses, and of course individual members. So based on questions and presentations from our first inquiry day yesterday, I'd like to talk about what we see as perception versus perspective. There are two opposing views that have been happening in our country. So for the past year, there's been the general perception that there's a drop in the standard of journalism. There's also been the perception created from public discussion most times, coming from a place of ignorance of how the media works and operates, and its news and information vetting processes and procedures. So these perceptions and instances of public and more so national leadership calls for the media to be held accountable has resulted in the formulation of a policy to govern the sector. We from the Council appreciate that the sector doesn't have a policy that governs it right now, and that's also tied to issues of, say, accreditation, qualification, recognizing it as a profession and as a qualified profession in the country. But those are conversations that have been continuing with departments like DICT, and they'll continue. But much of these perceptions have been viewed by members of the public as a call for greater responsibility from the media and the need for it to come under some form of regulation. So all these views have been perceived through the lens of media freedom is a qualified right and it comes with responsibility. From the media's perspective and from we sit at the Council, I'll probably now offer the following perspectives which have underlined our work and over the past 3 years. So first, the blame of the perceived drop in standards should not be carried by the media alone. What the MD of NBC mentioned yesterday is the challenge of newsrooms having to retrain journalism graduates so that they're industry ready. That's been happening since the early 2000s. Our journalism training schools can only work with what they get from the secondary education school system. So this problem is a bigger problem than just or media, you're not doing your job and you're dropping in standards. So the universities can only work with what they've been given from our education system. So to confront this issue head on, we at the council, with the help of our media partners, facilitated discussions to put the media journalism training schools in the same room as industry workers and editors, so that to have a discussion and find out how we can solve this problem. So both universities, UPNG and Divine Word University, told us the same thing, that the quality that they're getting from secondary schools into university, it varies so wide and has two extremes of some very good, but some very poor. And they told us that as universities, they can't keep doing basic grammar and trying to build up students' basic grammar knowledge. So they have been working with what they've been given. What we have suggested as industry and as from the editors who are in the same room was for them to bring back real-time, active, live, multi-platform newsrooms in each of the schools. So this becomes part of their assessment for journalism students to file directly into industry newsrooms about news and information they collect. So it's been done before in the past, and it's actually worked for some of the senior journalists who are still in the industry. Responsibility, that word's been used a lot, responsibility of the media, but I'd like to remind everybody that the responsibility of the media has never changed. Our responsibility is to the people of Papua New Guinea, regardless of whether this places government, regardless of who it is led by or managed by, in a negative light. Put simply, the media is not in the business of making anyone look good if they do not do good. Self-regulation. The media in PNG has always been self-regulating. It is one of the reasons why the media in PNG is considered by others in the region and across the world as being one of the most robust media sectors in any developing country. This self-regulation rests on the Media Council of PNG Code of Ethics. The guide is based on international journalism best practices, and it's guided industry since before independence. We have not been complacent in this regard, though, and nor ignorant of our current and continuing change in media technology and audience behavior. The Council, since the end of last year, has commenced on a review of this MCPNG Code of Ethics with the aim of including emerging challenges to the way the media in PNG does its work. So that's one of our priority areas, because that ties in with everything else about ethics and all of that. But there's some hard facts I'd like to now share so that we're all on the same page. One, the strength and credibility of any media organization which collects, compiles, and publishes or broadcasts news as its core business rests in the independence and integrity of its newsroom processes and information vetting procedures. Two, there is and always has been the threat of direct political influence over the news, more so in government-owned media organizations. They won't say it, so I am saying it on their behalf.
Yeah.
In attempts to either suppress or water down news reporting on particular issues, I personally have worked for one government-owned media organization whose minister would put pressure on the board of that organization, which would come down to the company's own board and then down to its CEO. The CEO would then put pressure on the news manager and the newsroom. This is unacceptable behavior from politicians who do not understand the values on which newsrooms and journalists operate. Sustainability. The biggest challenge to media organizations in PNG is sustainability. Nearly all of our media organizations in the country rely heavily on advertising revenue to remain in operation. And it's a tough job. This, unfortunately, has been weaponized in the past, where government agencies are directed not to take up advertising in particular media organizations because of their strong reporting on particular issues. The added threat we have seen is the government being able to weaponize the removing of broadcast license or having them suspended from broadcast news organizations if anything is published which may portray the government in any negative light. These are hard facts. Some may not be accepted by certain sectors, but they have to be put out there for everyone to understand what the media challenges are. Cost of living. Something that many critics of the media fail to remember is that journalists and media personnel are just people, just like everyone else. And if their own organizations do not have the capacity to meet all their financial needs, they are more prone to and susceptible to cash gifts and bribes for news. This happens, and it is the responsibility of our news managers and editors to ensure their teams are so committed to the ideals of this profession to stop this practice. Poor remuneration. Journalists remain some of the lowest paid professionals in the country. We use the word professional with our profession because it is a professional profession. It is a craft. And while this may depend on media organizations' financial capacity, there have been conversations about having the grounds to improve this through policy and or legislation. Again, this must be based on transparent consultation and not based on a timetable set by government or any one minister. Bigger than any one person. So one fact which we always remind ourselves of in this industry is this, that it's bigger than any one of us who operates in it. That it's a noble profession built on the noble values of honesty, transparency, accountability, and integrity. Journalists are ingrained with these values either through journalism training or strong newsroom mentoring. It is a noble profession which deserves to have its practitioners protected in law or any legislation proposed by government to guide rather than to regulate the media sector in our country. I can ask the committee's indulgence to just rewrite our submission to either have these points included or have this submitted as an attachment to it. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, we really prefer that you, whatever you stated, to be able to submit as part of your submission. There's some very important points you have made, and we'll begin our inquiry now. But first, I have to ask: is Anderson and is the Parliament Secretary here? Come. We also want you, when you're doing your submission, to also mention the name of the minister, the CEO, and the news organization that you referred to in your submission. We would like to ask you to name them, but it's good that you made the submission so we can qualify it before we make some recommendations. Thank you. Okay, we will begin with our questions. We have some questions prepared here. I'll read one or two, and my colleague will take on them. Then, if there's some question from your response, if there's some question we want to know, we will ask you. But I think first, from the top of my head, Media Council, who who created that media council? Is it the industry or the government created or stakeholders created the media council?
The Media Council was originally created by industry.
The industry.
Yes.
Okay, so how is the council members being selected to that media council?
Well, our full members are all media organizations, the mainstream media organizations, those who are in the business of producing news on a daily basis as their core business, PNG registered.
So they send their rep.
Yes, they nominate representations or representatives to be on the council, on the management council.
So how do you qualify your membership in terms of they have to be raised at a news outlet? You know, what sort of qualification do they have to be member of the council? Yeah, they can produce news, but what is there some qualification on the membership? Like they have to be a publishing company. They have to, if online, they have to. Or do you have online membership news? We have a couple of online journalists news outlet too. So yeah, local. Or is it local, overseas? You know, can you give some more information on the membership of the council?
Okay, so our full members, we have three categories: full members, associate members, and individual members. So full membership is only on the mainstream media organizations, those who are registered in Papua New Guinea, who operate in the mainstream or considered mainstream. That's both for traditional media and online media. So that's the membership. Associate membership is made up of civil society organizations, for example, like TIPNG, or smaller media operations who aren't doing the same kind of production that the mainstream media houses are doing. So that includes corporate and also state-owned media units from any of the departments. CS Media has been a long-time associate member of the Media Council.
CS Media.
Correctional Services.
Okay. All right. Do they pay any form of membership to this council, or how do you guys operate? Where do you get your funding from?
We don't. Right now, we don't even have an office, I must be honest. This is all a voluntary work that I'm doing for the council and along with my executives. I have a vice president, a secretary, and a treasurer, or that manages the affairs of the council. So we are elected by the full management council to serve as board executives for a term of 3 years.
Do you receive any funding support from your membership or from other sources?
Members are expected to pay an annual subscription fee. Each membership category has their own subscription fee level. But we do not receive any other funding in any sort unless it's in agreement with our partners and donor funders.
Who are your donor funders?
Right now, we have our major supporting partner is ABCID, International Development, through their project Media Development Initiative. They've been providing support to NBC and to most of nearly all the media houses.
Okay, all right, that's good. Since your inception, that is in what year? When did 1994? 1994. Has this council been functioning? Like how often do you have annual meeting or quarterly meeting? You know, how often is it been functioning and operating as it should, or you have some difficulties? You know, give an update of your organization.
Yes, the Media Council at one time was considered the biggest and largest one within the region, and we supported most of the other councils in the region with that. But up in the lead up to COVID, the 6 years before that, we did not have an office, and the executives then were just operating from their own areas. We still don't have an office, but we have resurrected since COVID. We didn't do much after COVID until just recently in the past 3 years. We've decided to just resurrect the council from scratch again, and that's what we've been doing.
Okay, thank you. Committee member.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Neville, also for representing the Media Council and your presence here to be a witness. I must say I'm surprised since 1994 since we established and for the council not to have an office, given that you play a significant and important role, especially with the profession. And that's something that you probably could include in one of your recommendations to have this office established. A few questions on, especially targeted on the professional ethics and standards. You said here you are rewriting the code of ethics and the professional practice. My question is there accreditation or certifying body outside of the Media Council that will look at this, whether it's internationally or regionally, approving these standards and ethics, or the code that you are writing for our journalists?
Yes, the code, the review work, which is what we're doing now, once completed, and once we have an agreed to new set of codes of ethics and professional practice, then that will be socialized with experts on that. Yes.
Do you have a time frame on this?
Yes, we are currently working on it, and we hope to have it out at least before the end of the year. Yeah, that's around the time that we're going to be getting feedback on it.
Just on the misconduct and disciplinary side of it, have there been any misconduct by members of the PNG Media Council in terms of compliance, maintaining those standards, those ethics? Have you have instances of that?
Yes, there's always instances. I mean, that can't be denied, and they range in terms of severity also. Much of the stuff, if the council does receive reports, we send it back to the member concerned and say, listen, you have to deal with this. Every media organization has a complaints management process. So that's the point where they connect with their audiences. And if the audiences feel aggrieved by something that they've published or aired, then they have that process first. If that process cannot be solved or no compromise can be reached, then they come to the Media Council to have a determination on that, and with the Independent Complaints Tribunal.
Thank you. Last question. What is the view of PNG Media Council in terms of misreporting, misinformation, disinformation? Are there some steps taken by PNG Media Council? Have you developed any monitoring or reviewing mechanisms or elements that can impede the flow of information from the media to the public?
Yes, I think there are our whole system, information vetting systems have also include spotting misinformation and disinformation. Every media organization now has a presence online, so they also have ways to check that, to look for misinformation and disinformation. I've heard mainstream media being put in the same box as social media. They're obviously two different things. Social media, we have no control over that, even from the Council's perspective. And that, as the Secretary of the ICT mentioned yesterday, is something that they deal with at that level. What we usually do manage in the sector is anything that's directly sent or to each of our members. For misconduct, yes, like I said, it's up to we put it back to our members to discipline their members, and we bring out this issue to light.
Thank you. Now, my final question is regards to the welfare of our journalists. Does the Media Council look into the welfare of the journalists and your members in terms of industrial issues, or do you need a separate association that will look into those affairs?
Yes, to a point, we do try to assist where we can, but the Media Council's remit is just to ensure that there's capacity building and skills training. And a way to assist with the individual journalist welfare is to provide or look for partners who can provide training to assist them. We recently had a security training on personal security and how to operate in uncontrolled situations. So newsrooms, we know that they can't provide that training for their staff. So we look at partnering with other media stakeholders, either regionally or globally, who can provide some of that training. But that's as far as we can assist from the council.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you so much, Media Council, for coming along and contribute to this important part of our Parliament, gauge information and then continue to put things together in order to bring, you know, a peace and harmony. There are a lot of in the media area, the misinformation, disinformation, yeah, is in there. And it has got some positive, of course, and other negative impacts that comes about in Papua New Guinea in terms of communication and in the especially media council. So I'd like to thank you, of course, the division that you are, the group that you are working on. My question is, what factors affect the media industry in Papua New Guinea and exchange of information amongst the media industry, its members and stakeholders? What factors affect the media industry in Papua New Guinea and exchange of information amongst the media industry and its members and stakeholders? How do you see there?
I think I outlined some of them in my presentation, but amongst media industry members, I think there is, for a while we did not have some sort of unity within the council, within our members, but that has now changed. All the editors, we have what's called an editors task force under the auspices of the council, and that's made up of editors from each of the mainstream media organizations. So there are issues that are discussed, approaches to how to develop the skill sets of reporters in our newsrooms. That's mainly the reason for that. There haven't been, to answer your question, I don't see much impact or negative impacts on it. There's only been positive.
Yes. Thank you. Second question, where does the Papua New Guinea Media Council and its affiliated members draw their code of conduct from? Where does the PNG Media Council and its affiliated members draw their code of conduct from?
Okay, so originally, when the idea of the Media Council was formed, there was an 8-point code of practice or code of conduct that all the industry organizations agreed to adhere to. That was later developed into a more robust, more inclusive code of conduct, which was reviewed with the help of the Australian Press Council. That was on when the country saw the advent of social media and all these things. So that was in 2016. The last review was in 2016. We are now reviewing that again.
Yes.
So it's based around all the loosely based around international best practices about journalism practice, yes. Ethics, integrity, all of these things. That's the core. But with our review, we'll be updating it to contextualize PNG media practice.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Good. And does PNG Media Council establish a complaint body, or what are the members of the complaint body apart from the PNG Media Council?
We have the Media Council Independent Complaints Tribunal. Yes. That has eight persons on it. 4 is reserved for Media Council membership, and 4 are public members. This was one of the changes that we just did in our review of our council constitution last year. So prior to that, the tribunal was only made up of 3 people, myself as chair and 2 other nominated and elected representatives from within the management council. That's now been expanded to 8, and we're in the process of building that up. Mainly the 4 determining the four public members.
Yes. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions more. This will be regard to your code of conduct and in terms of, like you mentioned, I mean, we all understand that media is a self-regulating body in PNC. So it's entirely depend on you to regulate the media industry. So we want to find out how you are doing that. All right. You mentioned you have code of conducts and ethics. And is that code of conducts and ethics is similar across all the membership? And yeah, is that code of conduct similar across all membership, or they have their own code of conducts and ethics?
One of the requirements before being admitted as a member is that you will abide by this code of conducts that we have. So all industry abides by, has this General Media Council codes of ethics and professional practice that they are supposed to adhere to. Within each media organization, they have their own news manuals, and within those news manuals, it dictates their own specific code of conduct tailored to their own mode of business.
Okay, so if they subscribe to the Media Council, then they have to adopt that code of conduct.
Yes, that's one of the conditions of being admitted as a member.
All right. Now, what happened to those breaches of code of conduct when a news organization or an agent, like a journalist, breach that code of conduct and ethics? What happens? Who discipline them? Who punish them? The Media Council or please elaborate on that.
Unfortunately, the council doesn't have any authority to discipline any staff of any of our members. That's left to our members to do. So if their staff is found to be have breached the code of conduct, and if it has also breached their own code of conduct within their organizations, then we encourage them to discipline them. And discipline reaction could range from either suspension, warning letters, to even termination.
Okay. So in your breach of your code of conducts, do you have some like ethics or conduct with regard to misinformation and disinformation?
I think what's described and prescribed in our code of conduct is to rule things like that out. I mean, if you're a journalist and there's no other reason to publish misinformation unless it was either a mistake or you have an ulterior motive and you're paid to do so. So within our code of practice, guidelines so that journalists are protected from doing those things or deterred from doing those things. Because these are, unlike every other profession, journalism is upheld and strongly promoted by integrity and honesty.
Okay. Now, how do you define or classify misinformation and disinformation? Is misinformation more severe than disinformation, or disinformation is more severe than misinformation?
I think I wouldn't be able to quantifiably, explain the difference of which one is worse. But I think one of misinformation would probably be exacerbated by the lack of society or people's use of social media, or the best practice to do while on social media. So there's a big ignorance of how to act and how to behave on social media that needs to be conquered, or that needs to be met with some solution. And I guess the solution would be information and awareness, constant information and awareness.
So you don't think your membership practice disinformation and misinformation?
Not on purpose, because in the mode of business, like I said, the only way that you would be compelled to do this is if either you're paid by an outside source to do it, know how the systems work, and bypass those systems. But our vetting processes are as such that these things are not happening, are not supposed to happen. It is not to say that they don't.
That's a interesting one. Not to say that they don't. So that means they do.
They are expected to happen because we are in the business of information, and these days information is power to different people.
Have you come across instances where your membership pass misinformation and disinformation, and you receive complaints from the public?
Yes, there have been complaints raised with the council, and even at the same time that they've been raised with the particular media organization. And it's even as simple as, say, a reference to a particular group of people that's wrong, or a place name that's wrong. So it was highlighted to us at the council, and we raised it with the media organization, and they did corrective measures immediately. So the different ways you can deal with a complaint in the media is obviously a retraction, a correction, or a public apology, in the same prominence where the mistake was made.
Okay, Neville, the definition that the committee classified with misinformation and disinformation is when you are spreading information you are not unaware, you don't know that just unconsciously spreading information to other people, to other audience. But disinformation is when you deliberately spread a false information. Do you agree with our definition?
That is the accepted definition, Chairman.
Okay, with that definition, do your membership practice any disinformation recently? Do you have any idea or complaints you receive from the public that they practice disinformation?
Honestly, Chairman, disinformation, no.
I have an instance of one of your membership practice disinformation, so I will bring it up in the next inquiry. But that's the crux of the matter, because you are self-regulating. So when you spread false information, now how do we have a redress of that false information, deliberately spreading false information? I mean, there is no law in PNC that will punish or penalize or prosecute those who spread false information, which is disinformation. So in your current policy or code of ethics, is there ways, not about the I understand you try to update your policies and code of conducts, but in your current code of conducts, is there ways or code of ethics between segregating between disciplinary or some sort of attention given to misinformation and disinformation?
My answer to that would be specifically on misinformation and disinformation, no, which is part of the reason why we're doing this review. But to the processes to guard against it, yes, there are processes in the code of practice that highlight what you should be doing as a journalist to protect yourself against spreading misinformation and disinformation. It may not be prescribed specifically in those terms, but yes.
Thank you. All right. They subscribe to your code of conducts and ethics. How often do you, because you have journalism coming into the newsroom and going out like 10 over, going out, so do you know how often they have to be, you follow up to make sure that your membership, train the new journalists and about the code of conducts and all this? Is there some sort of rules or policies or regulations that get you to get involved with your memberships to ensure that they train or upskill the journalists?
I may not be able to speak for individual members, but we have what's the Editors Task Force. We have regular meetings, and it's because of those regular meetings that we want to impress to our members, and they're the ones on the front line. So things like training, upskilling, or even things like challenges that they're facing that we've become aware about, we raise with the editors through that. But it's the regularity of having these meetings that's keeping it up. they may be able to explain their own internal processes as to how they deal with orientation of new staff and what they're provided when they come into the companies.
Thank you. We'll ask its media organization, the internal process when we meet with them. Okay. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah, some questions.
Thank you, Neville. Just my last line of questions. Is membership compulsory?
Full membership, yes, we encourage, because all our full membership at the moment are all the practicing mainstream media organizations. We've received expressions of interest from foreign-based online news organizations, but we have to go through a vetting process that's only done with approvals at our annual general meetings of memberships. So there's a process to follow.
All right. So even if there's a journalist who is doing independent blogs, is he or she required to be also a member?
Well, if they're in the practice of producing news and information on a daily basis as their core business through their blog, then they're encouraged to be a member.
Okay. One of the challenges we face today is you have independent bloggers who are also putting news out there and who may not be members to the Media Council. So would you agree that they are not subjected to this code and ethics, which you may have to look into?
I totally agree with that. They don't have any, they don't abide by any on social media or on the internet. If they're not registered to the council, then they don't abide by our code of ethics. Yes, it is an issue that we've realized, and that's the whole reason for this review, because we want to have specific codes of practice for print, specific codes of practice for broadcast, and specific codes of practice for online. Hopefully, it is our hope from the council that these codes of practice are held up and used by everybody who's practicing in media. The reason why we encourage anybody who's doing or in the media space to become members is because when they become members, they have access to all our training that we facilitate. So that's the big attraction to be members of the council. We facilitate training that they may not have access to. So the UPNG school, the media schools, they're also encouraged, and we ensure we have spaces for them in each of our trainings. If a member commits something that results in their expulsion or suspension of membership, then they lose all access to training that we have.
Okay. Finally, Neville, I'm just referring to this news article in Post-Korean May 13 that on the global press freedom and our index, seeing us fall out. What is your view on this, and should we be serious about this in terms of improving our ranking?
I think we should acknowledge the power of perception in regards to how outside media organizations perceive us in PNG. Just a hint of a policy that could regulate the media has caused us to fall from 51 to 91. And that's just a regional or global perspective of the potential of this. One, why? Because the media elsewhere in the world would see this as an affront to free speech, one, and freedom of independent media, two. So that's where I'm seeing, that's my understanding of this ranking. Even though our colleagues in Fiji have jumped up a lot higher than we have, just because of the removal of this draconian media law, much of the systems that were in place for the 13 years or 16 years that this law was in place, most of those systems of information collection are still in place. So even though they've risen in the rankings on the RSF rankings, they're still finding it very difficult. The media houses are finding it very difficult to get information from government. So the global index is a ranking, yes, but it might not reflect the true story on the ground.
Thank you, Chairman.
And media, especially this is your perception, maybe your opinion, or regards to the Papua New Guinea progress in regard to the area of information, especially with the media and council, especially in this. How do you see is there any room for improvement, especially for Papua New Guinea in regards to the standard that we are in, or seeing signs of the time, what's happening, and for improvement, especially in the media sector, in the media council, to improvement? Is there any room for your opinion or suggestion or recommendations for us to make more improvement from where we are in developing the sector of communication, especially in Papua New Guinea, in media? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I'm very positive.
Yeah.
I'm positive about the future of media in PNG. I feel that media that's owned by the government can be better consolidated and has the potential to be very effective, because information is what our people need, and we're not really seeing that being processed down the line from government, from the national level down to people. If the government is serious about helping in some way protecting independent media and free speech, there are ways that they can support the industry without being seen to be influencing the industry. So this is just an example that I'd like to put for the committee to consider. If the main issue of media or the media sector is sustainability, the government can assist by blocking off advertising space in every media organization, mainstream media organization, for the whole of a year. Have a budget set aside for that. What does that do? One, it helps sustain media organizations to keep operating. Two, it provides already a blocked off space for the whole year for advertising of your government information. Three, what it does is it defines clearly what government is trying to do rather than trying to influence the media in any way or any connotations of that sort. There are ways that this can happen. I know that the Secretary of DICT expressed honestly yesterday that it's been a blade to walk on with this policy, because media is a totally different space from technology. There are converging issues, but that's what's expected. I think we face the threats of new technology like AI, but we are already in that discussion about how that can be utilized in newsroom processes while still maintaining an ethics and an ethically visible coverage over the processes that matter, the decision-making processes and information. So I am positive, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Very, very important points you've mentioned. Thank you for your contribution so far. Perception. Now, because of perception, we are dropped from a ranking of 40-something to 90-something. What is that perception? Does the media industry feel, any what will I say, any sediments on when you guys dropped, when your rank dropped? You feel anything about that, or you were also you feel? Are you affected by the drop of the ranking?
I think we all are, and I think because we strive to maintain a level of transparency in what we do, and we see in newsrooms there are a lot of young journalists who still want to hold true to the pillars of journalism and the values of journalism. So what we're seeing within newsrooms, I for one am positive about what we're seeing. Yes, we are affected by that because it shows that there's a perception from outside that we are being suppressed in some sort of way.
Okay, so we are also concerned as a members of parliament, as committee members of this one, because we said we are not regulating. We have no laws regulating media. You also confirmed that you are self-regulating. So, as part of our consent, we have now the media as included in the commission. Parliamentary hearings on this. Now, what is the what is the industry doing to correct that perception? That's my question. Since you are the secretary to, Media Council, are you aware of anything the industry is doing to correct that perception?
I think publicizing it is what the industry has been doing, and to directly correct the perception, they may not be doing that, but it's an independently surveyed activity and index. We can make a representation to them, but the way they do their survey is totally independent.
Okay, so like mainly you mentioned because because the government is trying to do a development media development policy. Now we don't want to dive into what the government is planning to do, but like if we say we take out, from your point of view, if we say we stop the government from doing the media development policy, will it improve our rank?
That would depend on what we refer to as, it depends on the optics of it. If the government portrays a more transparent, more collaborative approach, a more respectful approach to this without trying to push it through as just a regular policy, I think it will improve the rankings. Right now, there's a perception that there's no consultation and no transparency in this process. That it's just part of another one of the bills from DICT that's going to be able to be pushed through government or through Parliament.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you guys were not consulted in the media
When they
development?
yes, sorry, Chairman. When they came out with the first version, it was without any consultation with industry. But then after that, they held a public consultation in the true spirit of consultation. I tend to contest the online survey of 1,000 something to 2,000 people as a full representation of Papua New Guinea and the perspective of the media. So that's what I mean by being clearly transparent and at least ensuring a consultation process that gives justice to what it is we're trying to challenge.
Would a policy, instead of being developed by the government, would the media development policy being drafted by the Media Development Council a better option?
Better option for us, yes. But I say that and justify that by saying there's no doubt that the media sector needs a policy. That's a given. But issues like accreditation and regulation of journalists and who can practice and who can't, that is open to abuse if left with government and if left with players constantly in the political race. If that is left with the industry, it leaves it as to be a more transparent and more transparent function and more vital function.
No, I agree with you. I mean, we really want to maintain that self-regulating environment for media, because you're the fourth estate. And I think that, I mean, what would be a recommendation? Would you recommend that media development policy be not drafted by the Department of ICT, but must be drafted by the Media Development Council? Would that be a good recommendation?
That would be a good recommendation, sir.
Okay, I think you can make your submission including that recommendation. So hopefully that will remove some perception that government is trying to control the media. Let it be the self-regulating aspect of it. All right, now my question is related to the freedom of media. Now, before you answer my question, you know that you were yesterday. You have listened to the various stakeholders from the government, the police, NBC, MD, DICT Secretariat, that the media is there is freedom in the media in this country. I mean, that's the perspective of regulations, policies, legislations, from the government, that there is no control over the media. it is self-regulating. So therefore, there is media freedom in this country. Now I want to ask your perspective, your thoughts of this. Is there media freedom in this country?
Short answer, yes. There is media freedom in this country. There are threats to media freedom. But if we did not have media freedom in the country, then we would not have newspapers to read every morning. We would not have radio bulletins or news bulletins to listen to every hour. And we would only be hearing one narrative rather than the narrative of everyone.
Okay, let me put in a different perspective. Is the freedom of media affected in any way? Is the delivery of freedom of media affected in any way from your members?
I think my answer would contain the word fear. Your references to the fear that exists within the media sector, and I think it's just the fear of reprimand for them doing their jobs. I think that's the biggest fear, and that's the main fear or the main threat to media freedom. That's as best as I can put it, Chairman. If there's any fear at all about media freedom and the growth of media freedom, it would be that. And my response and perspective would be, the media doesn't control how the government of the day is perceived. That's for the government of the day to control, and that's for them to manage. National perspectives, yes, but if I'm an editor and I get a story about a national perspective, as opposed to a local story that highlights the impact of something that is not being done in a certain sector, I will always go with the latter, because what our people need and the information they need will always trump the national narrative.
Okay, fear. When you mention fear that affects media freedom, I would like you to elaborate more on that, like provide instances, occasions, examples, some sort of context to that fear that affects media freedom. From your experience, from your membership reports, from your colleagues in the space, provide without name calling or anything. Provide some, like, are you fearing who? Are you fearing your editor, or you're fearing a politician, or you're fearing a police officer, or all this. When you say fear, it's like it's broad. So you need to provide more context to that fear, because you say it's affecting media freedom. So we want to have more context on fear. Where is it coming from?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll try my best to provide an answer. Let me use an example. So we've been talking about investigative reporting, and everybody that I've been hearing people say there's no investigative reporting. There's no investigative reporting. There is investigative reporting being done. Yes, investigative reporting needs a lot of resources that most times newsrooms do not have the capacity to provide for journalists. But we've had one new online news agency inside PNG do an 8-month investigative report into a network of that involved drugs and a lot of other things in Leh, which resulted in the arrest of an Asian, a lady of Asian origin in Brisbane recently. That's investigative reporting. What I've come to learn about Papua New Guineans' definition of investigative reporting is they want to see names in papers. They want to see who it is. They want to know who this person is. That's what people deem in Papua New Guinea consider investigative reporting. But investigative reporting is done every day. It's what the newsrooms do every day. When you look past the media release and dig deeper, that's investigative reporting. with regards to access to information, that's one of the hurdles, because what we don't have is an access to information policy or legislation or Freedom of Information Act. I think that's one of the projects that DICT is working on. But at the moment, if mainstream journalists cannot or do not or denied access to the decision makers, say secretaries, police commissioners, they will do their job and find the information elsewhere. And how is that considered from the national level? It's considered that journalists are not following process. When in the first place, all that these decision makers have to do is answer the questions and be available to answer questions. I think what the DICT is sorry, Chairman.
We need to get back to to a point of the context, provide context on. I know you used to get journalism, all these things, but provide context on. It could be a perception, or it is actually happening. We need to have some context on it.
Sorry, I was talking like a politician then. To cut a long story short, that story involved disciplined forces, both police and defense personnel. Threats were coming from both areas. 2 reporters working on that story. So investigative journalism is happening. Reporters are getting real-time threats on their mobile phones, messaging. How they get their numbers, we don't know. All that the reporters are doing is trying to put into place security protocols to protect themselves. Luckily, this Inside PNG was working with an overseas independent partner on corruption reporting, who's also working in other countries in the region. But those threats are real. And there is that fear, because Papua New Guinea, as we know, is not a big place. Everybody knows each other. And it's not difficult to find someone if you want to.
Thank you. At least you go on record and say that this is happening. Since you mentioned it, we would like to see from the inside PNG, get a full report of the threats that they receive, and give the names, whatever, because it will be privileged information for the Parliament. If you don't get it, we will conduct an inquiry into that. So you have to get the inside PNG to also part of your submission to provide that information too. Managing perception is one thing. Actually happening is the other thing. All right, fear is one. Like I said, I will be taking more of the time because you represent all the council members, so it will be good to get it from you. Fear is one of the things that is affecting media freedom. What are other things that is affecting media freedom?
I think it's just skills and capacity currently, but that's, like I said, something that we are addressing with the universities. A large part of that is also reinstilling ethics and morals about the profession. I think that's important.
What about journalism welfare? Do you think it can affect freedom of media in PNG?
Yes, I think it does affect them. I think going back to an earlier question about what we should have, ideally what we should have in the media sector is a PNG Media Association. That would take care of journalists' interests, as opposed to the Media Council, which represents the organization's interests. But having said that, that's a practical way of doing it. So an example would be Fiji. Fiji has a Fiji Media Association that represents the welfare of individual journalists, and then they have a Fiji Media Council, which represents the industry. But if there was some way to correct this situation, it would come down to recognizing journalism as a profession and having a grading system. At the moment, there's no remuneration grading system that's uniform across all sectors.
Thank you. I think we all agree that media is self-regulating in PNG. There is media freedom in PNG, but there are some things that is affecting media freedom to be completely 100% freedom. In terms of legislation, laws, and policies, there is freedom in media in PNG, but the things that affect media freedom is fear, journalism welfare, sustainability of the media organization, Those are the things that contribute to affect media in PNG. So we would like a submission or recommendation from your end because we want to correct that perception. So it would be good if you do that recommendation, get your council members together and do a recommendation on how we can correct the perception and also address the issues that affect media freedom in PNG. Thank you. You have one more question? Or question, am I right? Huh? Yeah, I think that will be all. Thank you. Thank you so much for providing valuable information to this inquiry. We all want the media to be free in this country, and if there's issues affecting the freedom of media, let us address it together. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Chairman.
You can be excused. Yeah, I think we should take post-Korea and national together. If they're here, we'll have like 3 minutes recess and we'll take them. Committee member, let's go for a break and regroup because they're the major players in the industry.